going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here, back today with another video, and today I'm going to be discussing something rather interesting. I'm going to be doing Sasuke versus each member of the Uchiha clan, and which form of Sasuke throughout the series would it be able to beat each respective member. I think this is interesting to kind of show a bit of linear progression, as a lot of these Uchiha clan members play mentor to Sasuke or just blatantly kind of use him in one way or another, along with him just having like the most potential compared to a lot of these characters. And the series makes notes of this multiple times, but I think it's an interesting video. With that being said, like and subscribe if you're new here, and we can get into the video. Starting off, we have Kid Obito. Kid Obito is kind of is a little difficult to scale and like talk about, since he's just super inferior to Kakashi for a majority of his run as a Genin, along with like constantly getting beat down by characters such as Kid Guy. Although when he attains his Sharingan, Obito is pretty impressive in the fact that he can keep pace with Jonin Kakashi against the hidden Stone Shinobi, performing combination attacks while never being overwhelmed by Kakashi or the Stone Shinobi. This Kakashi recently achieving Jonin rank as a ninja, and for perspective, the Sound 4 had to go into their version 2 states to take down 2 honorary Jonin who were out of chakra returning from a mission, which seems to be more so just a brawl, as Shikamaru notes the Sound 4 are just too individualistic in terms of their abilities and can't just throw them all out. But I just do think it's interesting to note that it required 4 people with like a 10 times amp to just like fight 2 Jonin out of chakra. So the Jonin tier actually is no joke. But again, Obito's just a little ambiguous, as he's clearly not at the Jonin tier, as Kakashi's nerfed with his new blind spot since he's missing an eye. This also depends on where you think this Kakashi lies at, minus Chidori in terms of his like basic combat stats. It's a little hard to place, as he's nowhere near his peak. And once he reaches his peak, he gets a little rusty in part 1. He has to train to get back to where he actually was. So we don't really know. For a lack of information, honestly, he might end up getting beat by Chunin Exam Sasuke, and on the higher end, beating Final Valley Sasuke. Final Valley being a lot more definitive, as that Sasuke branches into the Jonin tier, along with having more developed dojutsu, far stronger arsenal, and a curse mark with a bare minimum of a 10 times multiplier. Chunin Exams is a little more debatable, as it kind of depends, where that Sasuke stacks up in comparison to that Kakashi. And even if you were to say they're relative, and Obito is greater in his conventional stats, Chidori still isn't too much for Obito, and Obito even kind of like notes like his amazement on the technique and whatnot, whereas Obito in his arsenal just kind of has like basic Uchiha fire style ninjutsu. He's actually not even that much of a prodigy within the Uchiha, so it's more so like his showing and being on par with Kakashi that really gives him like a little bit of debatability with Sasuke. So Chunin Exams to Final Valley Sasuke is kind of where Obito lies, in my opinion. Any earlier iteration of Sasuke doesn't really have any feats to say he's on that Obito's level. Next up, we have Kid Madara. Now, Kid Madara is absolutely an animal, and there really isn't any way to argue any kid version of Sasuke would beat him. The reason being that this Madara, even without his Sharingan, was able to take down, in Mutsuma Senju's own words, capable adults from their clan, convincing him that Madara is a natural-born shinobi genius, which is obviously true. And it doesn't stop there, as even Madara's own father and clan head, Tajima Uchiha, refers to Madara's opinion in battle to whether or not they'd be able to defeat Hashirama, Tobirama, and their father. So he even places a great amount of respect on Madara's opinion alone in terms of combat prowess, which really does say something to Madara's capabilities. And then he goes on at the little end of this discussion to achieve his Sharingan, which would give a boost to all his stats. But the reason this Madara is such an absolute animal is that he's taking down Senju adults who are more than likely well versed at fighting the Sharingan due to their numerous encounters with the Uchiha clan. And Madara is still performing these feats with just his base, no Sharingan at all. And then he would obviously go on to fight other clans and still never be overwhelmed. So Madara more so just scales to like the adults of this time period as a child with no eyes. So it's pretty absurd. It's pretty absurd. And Sasuke never really demonstrates that ability to just take down adults of that magnitude, especially since this era is a lot more trying, with an even lower life expectancy count. So Madara is not having guardrails like a Chunin Exams or anything like that put in place. No, this is just straight up war, and he's able to continuously like take down not only Senju clan adults, but like more likely than not adults from other clans as well. It's due to this lore perspective that I can't really see any version of Sasuke from part 1, with the exception of maybe Final Valley, as that's when that Sasuke kind of approaches some higher ceilings of power. I feel a lot more comfortable saying beginning of Shippuden Sasuke would more than likely beat this Madara, as that's the Sasuke who has a lot more control over all his abilities. along with being more directly compared to Madara in terms of potential. Kurama makes the direct note that Sasuke is very reminiscent of Madara. Kurama more than likely being exposed or seeing other Uchiha throughout the decade, yet gives Sasuke like direct credit of being like, yeah, you remind me of Madara from the old days. So via all these variables, if Kid Sasuke was going to beat Kid Madara, it'd have to be Final Valley, as that's when that Sasuke more so approaches Jonin Kakashi territory. Otherwise, it would just have to be beginning of Shippuden. And for anybody who's like doesn't believe that or thinks it's weird or, you know, the lore implications aren't adding up, Itachi murdered the entire Uchiha clan at age 13 and was an absolute animal in his abilities. So age has no indicator on a shinobi's capabilities. Haku is also another good example of that, even Kimimaru. So Madara being this strong really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So for this Madara, I would say beginning of Shippuden Sasuke. Next up, we have Itachi, Akatsuki / Edo. Doesn't really make a difference for this point. And Obito with his orange mask. And the Sasuke that would be superior to these two individuals would be post-Kabuto fight Sasuke. I have these both listed together as Obito and Itachi are implied by the novels and the series to be opponents, enemies, rivals in the sense there's respect and wariness on both sides to even fight or confront the other, which does imply a degree of relativity between the two. Whichever one you think is stronger isn't really relevant to this discussion. As the Sasuke would scale above both. Now, EMS Sasuke is cited multiple times in the data book to be an equal to Itachi, along with having techniques said to surpass Itachi's, with the scene overall showing how Itachi had accepted Sasuke as his equal and told him the complete truth behind the clan and everything. So even narratively, like, this is all in line, even from their showing in the fight, whether you want to say like Itachi performed better or not. The reason I say post-Kabuto fight Sasuke is that his hatred towards Konoha grows exponentially from his encounter with Itachi, which would in turn boost his prowess, along with this Sasuke going on to display greater feats in the war arc. You can argue this Itachi would beat this Sasuke. It's just the moment he gets released from the Edo Tensei, Sasuke is still improving with this newly acquired dojutsu, which he just grows from using throughout the war, whereas Itachi just, that's it. That's all we get from him. That's the max amount of showing. So it's pretty, I feel like that one's pretty self-evident. Sasuke would also be above Obito, who is more so a rival to Minato, who's constantly compared to weaker and slower characters than Sasuke in the war arcs, such as the Raikage and KCM1 Naruto. There's a plethora of comparisons. Even if you want to argue that's Jonin Minato for whatever reason, I do think that's a bit debatable. But even if you don't like accept that, right? Minato also told Naruto he'd need to eventually cooperate with Kurama to defeat Obito. And the reason this is important is because the Sasuke that directly compares to Naruto is one that has done like the link with Kurama and is fully cooperating them, and then goes into like a more mastered variant of his like QB Chakra Cloak or like KCM1. He's able to do the mini-tailed Beast Bomb. He shows better feats than his complete link to Kurama, who is just getting dominated by Obito. A lot of people call this KCM 1.5, but it is a stronger version. And there's a little insight for this, whether that be his like chakra control is increased, meaning like all his stats would receive a buff, or you want to say like micro feats like him dodging Rinnegan Obito's Kamui attempts while not even like ready for them. The Rinnegan being a definitive buff for Obito, noted to have its own chakra that was on the verge of driving him mad. Said chakra would obviously get added to Obito's own chakra supply, increasing his strength and subsequent abilities. And this Sasuke directly scales to this Naruto. Like, they're literally back to back. They're shooting techniques out with the same speed. They can shoot attacks out with the same potency and like do combination jutsu. And then this Naruto goes on to improve along with this Sasuke improving. So literally it would just be this Sasuke going forth. And even if you didn't want to accept, like, just post-Kabuto fight, Sasuke just beats regular Obito, Sasuke does eventually get to the point where he can just perceive Ten Tails Obito and like tag him at the same pace Naruto can. So, you know, it just he just adapts too far in for like to say like regular Obito would be able to beat him. This also, you know, maybe you could say Sasuke was buff, but that doesn't relate to his perception feats at all. So this does still stand. These two characters can actually still kill this Sasuke as they have win cons. This Sasuke just has better stats and the ability to take them out as well. For example, he'd be too fast for Obito to catch when he materializes, and be too quick to get tagged with the Totsuka blade. With the like, for example, Itachi's Amaterasu, only giving Sasuke ammo for his end tone to use back at him, along with Obito. And the thing about Obito too is that far weaker and slower characters have figured out ways to like tag him or weave around his Kamui. So to say Sasuke's intelligence doesn't scale to that of like Conan or Fu and Torine, it just doesn't make any sense. So this Sasuke, in terms of his raw stats, you know, abilities don't matter too much in this case, but they do kind of lend itself to the argument. Is above both these characters, or would be the version to beat them. Next up, we have Shisui. Now Shisui's weird because he gets folded by Danzo, right? The specifics of that encounter are completely, we don't know anything about him. The anime has done interpretations. The games have done interpretations. They're kind of leaning into it being more of a surprise attack. Maybe you believe he's faster than Minato with his body flicker. We really just don't know. We just know he's a rival to Itachi, like pre-MS. Due to all these factors, I more so have him at like Danzo fight, Mangekyo Sharingan Sasuke level. And this might seem low to a lot of people. I'll say this too. If you're including Kodo Matsukami, then you could argue like he'd be above Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan of Sasuke, just due to the fact that jutsu is gonna work on Sasuke. It's just more so not counted as like a combat technique or like who would win in a fight. So if you were gonna include that, he would be higher. I'm just putting that out there. But just due to the lore and lack of information on the character, it feels almost disingenuous to put him that high. As he's not as strong as Itachi when Itachi gains his Mangekyo Sharingan, we never see Itachi in relation to Shisui's strength. So his scaling just kind of stops, and we really aren't able to see like anything more from him. The problem with Shisui too is like, even if you argue like he's more talented than Minato per se at like body flicker, it's really hard to use that, just since like most of the time in the series body flicker isn't really used in a combat setting or used to like scale characters in relation to their strength. And for those who aren't aware, like body flicker is essentially like a short-term speed boost where they kind of like put your chakra to your feet. The series treats it like almost like teleporting at time. Like a lot of characters just body flicker and they disappear from the scene and whatnot. It's just very hard to quantify that and use it, and even in terms of like their arsenal, right? Essentially, kind of like Shisui's kind of, it's so weird to talk about Shisui and characters like in relativity to that, just because his scaling stops so short and that his lore just really isn't that good. When I say not good lore, I'm not talking about his genjutsu feats or like his body flicker, lore or anything like that. I'm just talking about his lore off losing to Danzo, and how we didn't see the encounter. I believe it's implied to be a surprise attack, but honestly, you could just say like EMS Sasuke, right? If there's ever like a contention between like Sasuke and another Mangekyo Sharingan user, just Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan Sasuke would just eclipse all of them, as he grows beyond like the pinnacle of the Mangekyo Sharingan, which in my eyes is like Itachi and Obito. So that's also my 2 cents on that. Next up, we have White Mask Obito and Edo Tensei Madara. Both of these I have on the same category, as again I think they're relative, and they're treated as such in the series. Like they're both like able to take out large platoons of shinobi. Their attacks are shown on par with one another. They're able to like pretty much a lot of things imply that these two are like relative forces. And the only real Sasuke I see like taking these two out or being above these two is really Rinnegan Sasuke. In terms of Madara, because I'll talk about Obito for a second. It's pretty clear, as even Orochimaru, after seeing like Madara on the battlefield and whatnot, notes that Sasuke, right before he performs his feats against Jubito, would one day surpass Madara. So he's still not at that level, obviously. But this is a Sasuke that goes on to fight Jubi Madara, who is superior to both this Madara and Six Paths Obito, who's superior to White Mask Obito. This is all very self-explanatory. Along with this, Sasuke having sealing ninjutsu with Chibaku Tensei and whatnot, so he'd have no issue stealing Madara at this point. His perfect Susanoo is far stronger. Even at points in the Kaguya fight, just blatantly blocking her physical strikes, which were dismantling the Susanoo earlier in the fight. He also just runs and chops this Madara in half. So he's really got everything to deal with Madara himself. Same thing with Obito. Obito's Rinnegan abilities really don't matter against this Sasuke specifically. You can even argue like if he goes to like tag Sasuke or Kamui him, he can just use Amino Tajikara and like switch places and tag Obito again, as he doesn't really even have to be facing the person he uses to like use the technique. So it's pretty absurd what he can do. This Obito, again, like Sasuke just more so reacts at an earlier stage to a faster Obito. So to say like White Mask Obito would really be able to stop him would also be really weird and not indicative of this Sasuke. So yeah, Rinnegan Sasuke should be enough for these two. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. We can just move on. If it's not, this Sasuke is just Six Paths level and fights Six Paths Madara stronger than Six Paths Jubito. I don't know what to tell you. I'm also throwing 10 Tails Obito into this category for the exact same reason. Just all the same things apply. And even Obito's strongest asset, the Truth-Seeking Orbs, don't really matter against Sasuke, since he can just shoot the Susanoo arrows at them and like neg them or like incapacitate them. So the Rinnegan rods don't affect him. It's just the whole deal with like Six Paths Obito was that he was using the truth seeking orbs in such a fluid manner that was really dangerous to like everybody around him because they were all at a lower level and didn't have a way to deal with it, whereas this Sasuke does. So the truth seeking orbs really aren't going to be stopping him in any capacity. So yeah, they, on top of like all the previous reasons. So yeah, Six Paths Obito also loses to Rinnegan Sasuke. Next up, I have Dual Mangekyo Sharingan Obito and 10 Tails Madara. And for this version of these characters, I'm going to have the last Sasuke. Now, the reason like I primarily base the last Sasuke is he gets more time to develop with his abilities. He gets stronger. Even cited having the strongest dojutsu in existence. But the main thing everybody points to, and I'm going to talk about this, is the novel statement where Sasuke is pretty adamant on his abilities to be able to best someone of Kaguya's caliber. Now, that would really be all you really needed to say, as Kaguya was superior to both these individuals. Even if you were going to say, like, for example, like DMS Obito could like press her, he still wasn't stronger than that Kaguya. Nobody in that fight was actually superior to that Kaguya. But if you actually don't like take the novels as canon, you would literally just say Boruto Sasuke would just fill in this category, as they're essentially the same character. Boruto Sasuke is just a stronger version of the last Sasuke. And he would realistically just kind of do what he did against Madara, like he did against Kinshiki. He would just fly around, beat him around. He's able to seal him if need be. And DMS Obito is a little more tricky to say. But essentially, his abilities are extremely broken at 100%. I will grant you that. It's just like we have no way to say like how strong he would be. As the only person he actually fights, we have someone stated to be stronger than. So, and I'm primarily basing Dual Mangekyo Sharingan Obito off of Kakashi for context. So he could be even stronger. But yeah, that's kind of where that Obito caps out. And his abilities are broken, but he actually does still share the same weakness. He does have to materialize to tag somebody. So it's the same principle here. It's the same. Everything's pretty much the same here. Next up, we have Fugaku Uchiha. Again, Fugaku's one of those weird characters that, has really good statements. Even Itachi kind of like talks about it in the novel, that he'd be like the worst person for Itachi to fight, along with Fugaku being like a candidate for the Hokage seat. So he actually is pretty substantial in strength. Honestly, if Itachi thinks he's that strong, then that would put him above like MS Sasuke or like Kage Summit Sasuke, but not high enough to like justify him being above Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan Sasuke. And this is just due to lack of information, but you could deduce like that Itachi, who thinks he'd be like a ridiculously strong opponent, would also be stronger than the Sasuke who had his Mangekyo Sharingan. There's also Kagami Uchiha, who's like super unknown. We just know he was in Tobirama's squad. And Shisui implies that he would not even hold a candle to him, or he's not nearly of the same caliber. So if you imply that he's above Shisui, you could also say Kage Summit Sasuke would also be below him, and that Sasuke requires his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan to beat somebody. I'll put it like this. It's kind of dependent on where you place like Shisui's strength. For example, you might think Shisui is just weaker than 5 Kage Summit Sasuke, but would be able to just absolutely obliterate him via Genjutsu. And whether it be the Genjutsu that allows him to like freely manipulate another person's mind, or just Kodo Matsukami that would allow him to scale to a higher Sasuke, or you just think Shisui's that brolic in general, kind of like gives the idea of like where these characters would be. So I wouldn't say like it's definitive. There just is a range, and there is a little bit of room depending on your perception on these characters and their lore. So it can go either way, but essentially like EMS is kind of the max, since that Sasuke does eclipse most of the clan at that point, which it's pretty self-evident. That's the list. There's definitely like a couple more Uchiha in lore, which we just know nothing about. So there's not really to talk about there, or not too much to say. So that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I got a Naruto video coming out, which is going to be each form of Naruto versus each of the Hokage, and like which form of Naruto would be needed to beat those Hokage. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to see that, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Catch you next time. Bye.